Hey guys, welcome to the RayQuest Podcast. It's a temporary name, maybe? I don't know. You guys suggested that I call you guys RayQuesters, and I thought, well, I'm going to do a podcast with my friend Tristan. Say hi, Tristan.
Hello.
And I was like, I want to do a podcast, and we watched this Over the Garden Wall cartoon mini-series little thing that happened this week on Cartoon Network, and I was like, that's the perfect beginning thing. And so I think we're just going to call this the RayQuest Podcast. I think it's got a nice little ring to it. It was something I was like in the shower. I'm like, I don't have a name for the podcast. What do I do? What do I do?
Grab the soap.
Shut up, you. So, anyways, this is my friend Tristan. Met him in college, and he's a bigger nerd than me, so it's going to make me seem less of a nerd.
I apologize in advance.
That's your purpose. I think he gives a really good different perspective than me. I think he follows a lot more Japanese-oriented things than I do, though we both have a love for both things. You know, I appreciate Japanese stuff as well as you enjoy a lot of Western things. So, but it's like a peanut butter and chocolate type of thing, I guess.
I prefer peanut butter and jelly, but
I was just thinking of something that people know. So, Over the Garden Wall, if you guys haven't, or if you're not familiar with it, it is a mini-series. It's 10 episodes long, aired in a week, 2 episodes per day, and it's about two brothers, Wirt.
W-I-R-T.
I always want to say Wirt. Wirt and Gregory, and they are going through the unknown. It seems to be this forest of these magical, spiritual creatures, and they're trying to find their way home.
Cue the Lost Woods music.
Yeah. And I saw a lot of previews for it on Tumblr and just different little images, and it definitely piqued my interest, but I just found it online. I didn't watch it on the thing. I'm a bad supporter of TV shows. And
well, maybe if Cartoon Network's streaming site was better.
And so I was like, oh, wow, this is really, really good. The first episode sucked me in. Honestly, Elijah Wood. I'm a big fan of Wilford. I don't know if you guys have seen Wilford, but that's a show about a guy who tries to kill himself, and then the next day he sees his neighbor's dog as a guy in a dog suit. And it's a lot of fun. And so I really like Elijah Wood as a voice actor. He kind of plays the same kind of, like...
eternally youthful kid?
No, I was going to say more like kind of self-tormenting, very low self-esteem, and a little crazy.
A little bit. Not Shia LaBeouf crazy, but crazy nonetheless.
Yeah, and so that what sucked me in, and then obviously Christopher Lloyd is just he's one of those guys that, like, as soon as you hear him, you know exactly who he is. But it doesn't take away from the character. It just enhances it.
He never once says "Great Scott" throughout any of this, so I'm thankful for that.
That would have made it better.
It's a weather machine, I swear.
Is that Seth MacFarlane movie?
Yeah.
I have not seen it. That was the only thing that got me.
Yeah, that's same cool. Here.
Yeah. And what we're talking about, for those who haven't seen it, is Seth MacFarlane has a How to Die in the West 1,000,000 times or something. And randomly, they make a reference to Back to the Future 3, where Seth MacFarlane walks over, sees some like light appear out of a barn, goes in there, and then Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown like throws a carp over the DeLorean, and it's just like, it's a weather machine, you know.
He throws a fish over it?
Carp? Isn't that not what the...
Tarp.
Tarp, sorry. Whoops. And so, not to derail from Garden, because I'm assuming most people clicked on this thinking we're going to talk about Over the Garden Wall, and we are. The one thing about Doc Brown that really kicks me is the fact that when I try to do the Doc Brown voice, you know, the Marty, I just sound like Richard Nixon from Futurama.
Yes.
So let's talk about Over the Garden Wall. This is our first podcast. This is the first time.
So it will be awful.
It probably will be pretty terrible, but, I don't know really how this will go from a narrative perspective. I think we'll probably talk about the episodes, what happened, so it'll probably be pretty spoilerish. You know, we'll give a summary of each of the 10 episodes, and then we'll probably, I think as we tell the episodes, we'll just talk about our opinions of them. Mm-hmm. There's definitely episodes that I really, really enjoyed, and there's definitely a couple that I didn't enjoy. And then, after we go through the whole thing, we'll probably just kind of... I know I really want to talk about the theory that we thought that was, and whether or not it was true. at the beginning of the episode, first off, I saw it every day of the week. Like, I watched it after it aired, and then I watched each episode every day. Tristan, on the other hand, got to watch it all in one go.
I marathon stuff. It's a bad habit.
Oh no, binge watching is part of the American way now.
Excess and everything.
I just alienated my entire fan base because there's like 5 people there from America, and the rest of them are all from like Australia or Finland or etc. etc.
Hello world.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool that we got a different perspective going through that. And then we just finished watching it again, so it'd be really fresh that way. Because there's a couple of different notes that he was mentioning while we're watching it, and I was like, I don't know who Aunt Whispers is anymore. I'm really bad with names, guys. All right, so with the first episode, I got it pulled up here, so we have a summary. So the old grist mill. Am I pronouncing that right?
Grist, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, in this episode, what's really cool about the show is that it likes to begin scenes or episodes midway through. Mm-hmm. Like, it never starts at the beginning of the story. It always starts at, for this one, the brothers are already lost. Mm-hmm. There's no we stumble upon it or explanation of why they got lost. That appears in a later episode. But in this one, it's boom, they're lost, and they run into this mill. The one kid's throwing around candy as a candy trail so he doesn't get even more lost.
That was in his pants, not his pockets, his pants.
They also have a frog, not really explained until later, but they just have a frog. And so they run into a woodsman voiced by Christopher Lloyd. And really great character, brings a lot to it. I don't think the character would have been as interesting if it was voiced by someone else. Yeah. I instantly was like, oh, cool, I like this character. He's got a cool voice, you know?
Yeah. His voice has presence.
Yeah, definitely. So, the guy, it's got kind of this, again, most shows would be, vague in a bad way, but this one, it felt very natural of how, the woodsman was talking about what was happening, or, beware of the beast, and, you can stay here, you can go wherever you want, but, I'm gonna do my job, which he carries a lantern around, and he basically collects little sticks to grind into oil.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, edelwood trees.
Yes. And so, so the woodsman goes and makes his stuff, and then Wirt and Gregory are kind of talking about what should they do, and Gregory goes outside to find the frog because he left him out there, and then they're attacked by a beast. Not the beast, we find out, it's a beast, and it turns out it's just a random dog that ate a turtle.
Yeah,
and then became
some
evil.
Randomness right there. You notice the turtles kind of are almost a red herring throughout the series. There's always something. The turtle distracts you from something.
Yeah. What really noticed me the second time viewing the episode was the attention of detail. Because we're also introduced to Beatrice in this episode as well. She's only
very briefly,
but she becomes a very important character throughout the whole thing. But what was really cool was I noticed that just second time watching it, I didn't pay attention to it. It was just a small little detail, but Gregory puts a piece of candy on a turtle, which is why the dog ate it. But he also put a piece of candy on Wirt's costume, on his cloak, and I didn't notice it the first time. It was just one of those things. Where oh, it's there, but they did take the time to actually put that there.
Yeah, make sure it was in any time he saw that cloak.
And that's something that I know we're talking about. Hey, we're gonna just talk about each episode, but to go back to the whole overall thing. One thing I'm really impressed with this was just how well and how fine-tuned this was as a story. It was the fact that maybe it was only 10 episodes long and it was done in one go versus other things where they're just kind of it's really stretched out. They were able to really make sure that every piece connects. And even with repeat viewings, I find that I'm noticing things about characters some shows would just make a character act one way because that's how you're supposed to feel about them, and then when they change or you find out something about them, then they start acting a little bit differently because you now know. This one, Beatrice acts a little weird throughout the whole thing, and you can definitely tell that it's based off of what she's going through her arcs, and we just don't know it yet.
Yeah, I mean, stuff has happened to her off screen that we didn't know about.
And so we just think that she's kind of a jerk, but it's because she's actually going through some personal stuff.
Yeah.
And so so we have the hard times at Husky Bee. This is where Beatrice becomes a main character. She made a cameo in the previous one, and now She basically is stuck, or she
Bluebird bound.
Bluebird bound to help the brothers because they helped her out of a bush. Again, I guess we're kind of being a little spoilery. I'm assuming everyone that's listening to the podcast has already watched it, but if we find out that she's not really trapped, and she's just kind of trying to manipulate him, but doing a very bad job at it. And so she made up some rule about bluebirds are always bound to help people if they're helped out.
Great Halloween episode.
Yeah, yeah.
The perfect episode to just... I would say it's a better intro to the series than kind of the intro episode, because you've got all your characters, and there's weirdness, but none of the weirdness really affects the overall story.
I don't know. I like the first episode a lot.
Oh, I know. The first episode is not always the best intro episode. Like, I showed my roommates Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
And I showed one from episode 1, and he wasn't feeling it. But then we watched random ones on the DVR at his mom's place, and he was like, these are so much better examples of the show.
That's weird, because like with Gravity Falls, I really, really enjoyed the first episode. Like, it was my favorite. In fact, like...
I enjoyed it, too.
It took me a few of the episodes afterwards, kind of... I was like, oh, this is good, but it's not nearly as good as what the first one set up, you know? But yeah, before we can go too far with Gravity Falls, we can make that another day.
Yeah.
Another podcast. So, with this one, the brothers and Beatrice... are trying to find civilization. They find like a nice little town, and it turns out instead of it being people, it's these it's people dressed up as pumpkins. They're apparently going through some kind of festival or a ritual, and they're all just kind of harvesting their stuff. And the brothers accidentally step on some pumpkins. And there's what's really cool about this was there's again with its dialogue being kind of like hinting at stuff, but not. One of the characters goes, "Aren't you a little too early for this?" And it's implied that they're just not in costume. But we'll talk about that in a moment. And so the brothers and the Beatrice get kind of caught in the situation, and then the leader of the town, I don't know if that's the appropriate term. I mean, definitely leader. I was going to say mayor, but that's not quite that.
Mayor's pretty close. I mean, but he is also a giant pumpkin head creature.
Yeah, so all the creatures or all the people there have like pumpkin heads, and then there's just this really big one with a really nice soothing voice, apparently voiced by Chris Isaac. I definitely heard him in other cartoons, but I don't recognize the name. And so basically what happens is the guy's just like, "Hey, you trespass, you break some of our crops, and now you want to leave? That's not cool. Well, guess what? You get to do community service." It's built up to like they think they're gonna die, and then it's like, oh, they harvest some of the stuff, and then they apparently are digging holes, which may equal them digging their own graves.
Which is kind of reinforced by Gregory's discovery.
Yeah, he finds a skeleton in there, and so like, oh crap, we're digging our own graves. Which, again, this is one of those moments where, kind of like Gravity Falls, it's like, oh wow, this is a kid's cartoon, right? This is on Cartoon Network. Interesting. All right, I'm cool with it. I'm an adult. I enjoy this.
Yeah, and kids would too. It's no more morbid than Nightmare Before Christmas or anything.
That's true. It's just interesting to be like, yeah, we're digging our own graves. That's a concept that I guess I knew that. But then again, I always forget that like how young I was when I was introduced to horror movies.
Yeah, same here. But I mean, the other interesting thing is how much this episode misdirects you. Because like they keep thinking bad, they keep assuming the worst.
And so what's revealed is that it's actually not that they're building their own graves; they're actually digging up graves. Even better. That is family friendly fun. And so actually, what they were doing was they were digging up the life of the party. Apparently, these two particular skeletons are the coolest people in the world, according to this village. They were very happy with it, and. What's really interesting is that Enoch, I think, is the giant pumpkin's name. Enoch. I'm like reading it. Oh, yeah. And so he just goes like, "Hey, are you sure you want to leave? You'll be back here anyways." Which implies that this is a place of the death, or these, what you find out is all the pumpkin people are actually skeletons, and they just wear the pumpkins because the story needs it to misdirect. But yeah, so you find out it's implied that this is where everyone goes when they die. Which let's speak about this. So the forest that the kids are exploring is called the Unknown, and at this point, this is after watching the first episode again with Tristan to introduce him to the series, I kind of came to the conclusion that the kids are dead. Like
I did too.
It feels very much like, oh, you know, they're kind of a purgatory,
perdition type idea.
Like maybe they're not like officially dead, but they're definitely in there, and we'll find out later whether or not we're correct. For the people who already watched it, like we know, Steven, stop it. What are you doing here? I'm trying to make a narrative within the podcast. I'm sorry. So that was the first two bunch, which was a really solid duo set. That got me hooked, and I was like, I can't wait till tomorrow. The worst part is I have a bunch of deadlines this week, and so like me dedicating an hour or two to all the cartoons I keep up was not what I needed this week.
Hey, you still get more done when you procrastinate than I do. So.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take it. Personal win. So the next two batch, this was interesting. The Schooltown Follies, Chapter 3. This one is basically, in my opinion, kind of pointless. I don't particularly like it.
It's a resting phase. It's like, in stories, you kind of have... It's like when you clap. You clap, and then there's that space in between. Yeah. You're still going to continue clapping, but...
So in this episode, Wirt and Beatrice, always fighting. It seems to be their little thing. They fight like a married couple. And basically, Gregory kind of just does whatever he wants, and Beatrice is getting very annoyed because it's clear at this point Beatrice does not want to be friends with them. She just wants to get what from the perspective of the viewer, she just wants to rid of them, do her favor, and move on. What we know is actually she's trying to manipulate them into helping her in a way. We'll talk more about that in her episode, but. So Wirt, basically, she insults Wirt by saying Gregory should be spineless, like just do what you're told and don't have any ambitions. And so Wirt, to kind of stick it to her, now just listens to everything anyone says, and they wind up stumbling upon a school, and the teacher tells them to sit down, and so he just kind of goes with it. Now they're stuck there. Beatrice wants to move on, and the others just like whatever.
Yeah, Gregory goes off to do his own thing, as Gregory is wont to do, but Wirt's just like, well, I was told to sit down. Yeah.
So basically what Gregory does in the episode is try to make everything better. Like that's his goal. Is just like what he took from Beatrice was stop doing, life sucks, stop being cheerful, just be quiet and do this. Instead he took that as like, hey, I can go help someone out. And so he's trying to help out the school. Basically, what you find out throughout the episode is that the school is going through money problems. The guy who paid for it has lost everything in his life to fund the school, and he gives the impression that he's this cold-hearted jerk. But and he takes away some of the kids' instruments because they're having fun with them. But instead, it's just instruments are expensive, and he's able to sell it to help fund the school a little bit further. The other subplot is that the teacher is very, very bitter towards an ex who apparently disappeared, and there's a gorilla searching around the place. It turns out that her husband or her boyfriend joined the circus, got stuck in a
gorilla costume.
A gorilla costume, and so that's it. My problem with this one is that nothing that happens in the episode itself really translates to anything else. It does give a little bit of character development for Wirt and Beatrice both. Wirt just kind of sticking up to himself in a way by not sticking up for himself. And it does add, I wouldn't have taken it out, but it's definitely one of my least favorites out of the set. It's also the first episode to really be very musical. The previous episodes did have music to it, and by the way, the music in the show is fantastic.
Yeah, even at its worst, it's great.
Yeah. But with this one, it's Gregory, who has a very, very young voice. While Wirt is voiced by Elijah Wood, a grown man, Christopher Lloyd's voiced by a very old man, and everyone else is very refined. It's been doing this a while. This is Gregory's voice actor's very first role, and so here he sings a song about potatoes and molasses, and I'm not a fan.
Random.
I'm not a fan of
random.
the song at all. His voice is like that one pitch where it hits my ear, and I'm just like, I'm not. No, I'm okay.
It's like, can we get a female in here to pretend to be a kid?
Yeah. It's just too little high pitched, and I don't know. Like out of the set, like I said, nothing in this episode really affects the next one. Versus everything else that's happened, really does help build towards the story. I could see this one being cut and not losing anything. You have anything to say about it?
Well, I mean, it was definitely interesting. It reminded me of the Little Lulu cartoons back in the day. Because the schoolhouse setting, and there's even though the kids don't talk at all, because I don't think we mentioned that the kids were animals.
Oh, yeah. So the school itself is built around teaching animals how to do math or something. Like, it's quickly mentioned, but yeah, Gregory and Wirt are the only ones that are actually kids.
Yeah.
Or actually, like, human. The rest of, and the teacher's human, the father of the teacher who owns the school is human, the boyfriend's human, but everyone else in the episode's all animals. It's interesting. But
it shows how, kind of an odd story it is that we could go for that whole time without mentioning that the kids were animals.
It wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, it was there to just make it seem odder.
Yeah. So, episode 4, chapter 4, it is Songs of the Dark Lantern. This one's really cool because basically it's Wirt and Greg visit a tavern to ask directions. Beatrice is thrown out because she's a bluebird. Oh, by the way, Beatrice's backstory, I believe we find out about right now, is that she was... No, I think it's the next episode.
Next episode.
Next episode, sorry. Well, anyways, so she gets thrown out, and basically, this is an episode that I think you didn't care for, or you thought about was a little bit weaker.
It was a weird start.
Okay.
The basic fact that all the characters in the tavern are singing stereotypes or archetypes of what they are. And it didn't really win me over. Like, I was really weirded out by the Highwayman. But then he started moving during his song.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's a character in there that when he starts singing, it feels like they blew their entire animation budget on this, because he's super fluid versus everything else being very, like, television quality, like 12 frames per second. And then there's this guy that's, like, on 24 frames. Like, every frame, there's 24 frames per second versus normally on cartoons, especially for television, it's 12 frames, which is done on 2s. And this guy's done on 1, so it's a lot of frames in there, and it's really, really fluid.
Yeah, it's supposed to reference an older cartoon. I want to say some of the old Max Fleischer stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, quick, let's explain the episode, because we haven't quite... They get to a tavern, and like everyone has a profession or a title. So it's the barkeeper, there's this. They're asking Wirt what his is, and so throughout the episode they're trying to figure it out. He mentions that they're looking for... Oh, by the way, Beatrice is trying to take them to find Adelaide?
Adelaide, the good witch of the pasture.
Yeah, and so this lady is going to be the one that's going to be able to take these kids home. She has the ability to do so, according to Beatrice. And so they're trying to find directions for it, so that's why they stop by. And everyone's like, oh, what's your job? You know, you can't be nothing. What are you, simple? Which is an insult, by the way. for people that don't know older terminology. And what's interesting about this episode is it introduces a character that is very short-lived, but Fred the Horse,
Fred the Talking Horse,
voiced by Fred Stoller, who is apparently from Everyone Loves Raymond. And so, like, basically, this episode, again, while it sounds like, well, the previous episode didn't really have much to apply, well, you guys talking about, you know, they ask for directions. Well, obviously, they find where they're going a little bit, as well as this gives a little bit more detail towards the beast. Turns out that dog from the first episode wasn't the beast.
Nope.
The woodsman says that in the episode. That's not the beast. That's a simple farm animal, you know? And it turns out that the beast, according to these people, is a creature that turns people into Adamwood?
Edelwood, yeah.
Edelwood. And so basically, which is used by the woodsman to turn oil to fill a lantern. This lantern is supposedly has the soul of his daughter. And so he has to keep this lantern lit to keep his daughter alive, according to the beast. And so this gives a little bit backstory to the beast, which is pretty cool. And then basically the group leave by stealing a horse.
By stealing Fred.
by stealing Fred the horse, who the entire episode Beatrice is talking to, but says nothing, just kind of laughs, and then she's like, "Oh, did you guys get direction? Yeah, we got it from Fred. Who's Fred? Hey!" Boom, the talking horse.
Yeah. That was random, but it was... The episode kind of... It had a lot of references. It had references to the Max Fleischer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It also... The barkeep was straight up Betty Boop.
By the way, just in case the people that follow us don't know older cartoons, I have a lot of younger audiences. I don't know how far they research, but...
Educate yourselves.
Oh, come on!
No, I kid.
Basically, what was his name again? Max what?
Max Fleischer.
I can't pronounce his last name. He created, or supposedly created, Felix the Cat. There's some debate whether or not he did or not.
No.
But yeah, so Felix the Cat, Betty Boop. If you guys see my Watch Me Draw, Betty Boop and Felix the Cat, this is kind of the era we're talking about.
Yeah.
Black and white 1930s cartoons.
Yeah. But also the singing and everything in the place. Have you ever seen Disney's Tales of Ichabod Crane, where it was like Sleepy Hollow, Headless Pumpkin?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't think I've seen it.
It really felt like kind of a tribute to that.
Okay.
Like, it was tributes upon tributes.
In a later episode, we'll talk more about tributes, because there's one that like really hit me. Mm-hmm. That I was like, oh man, this is definitely a reference to. But what's really cool is this is definitely a love letter to just like fairy tales and animation. Like this feels like a modern day Grimm's fairy tale.
Oh, very much so.
Which is really really good and really really needed. I think like this is definitely going to become a show that I'm going to watch every like fall.
Oh yeah.
Like I think it aired a week a little too late. Like I think it would have been better right before Halloween. But it definitely feels like a fall cartoon. It's not like while the previous one had like haunted pumpkins. It's definitely not just Halloween. Even though it does take place over the Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
So the next episode is Mad Love, which is this one for me was the first one that really clicked. Like this is like. While the first episode sold me, this is the one where I'm like, okay, I'm in love with this. Like, I liked it before, and now I want to marry it. And so, with this episode, Wirt and Greg claim to be nephews of this strange, senile old man, Quincy Edicott.
Yeah, Edelcott or Adelcott, some way of saying it.
Basically, it's Beatrice's idea because they need money to get to the ferry to get to Adelaide. And it costs 2 cents, and so they're pretending to be these nephews to ride this rich senile old man. The best thing is just like because they don't know that, like Wirt's like, what are we doing here? Why would we pretend to be his nephew? Beach is like, we're gonna steal from him. Goes, you're gonna scam him? No, steal. Let's not make it worse. And then there's at one point it's like, we can't steal stuff. And they're just like, yeah, no, we stole the horse. It's different. He's a talking horse. Well, Fred, what do you want to do? I want to steal.
Oh, that was great. Like it makes me wish that character had stuck around longer.
Yeah. Well, spoiler. Well, I guess I already said it was short lived. But yeah, this is I think when it hits the like both mystery, misdirect, and comedy just hits perfectly. Like, this is probably one. It's not my favorite episode, but it's definitely up there. Mm-hmm. And so, go ahead. You sound like you're about to say something.
No, go on.
So basically, what happens throughout the episode is that the team kind of splits up a little bit. Beatrice and Wirt look around trying to find money or something they can sell, while Gregory just kind of goes along with it. Like, I'm almost half tempted to think he does think he's his nephew and wants to see the ghost. So basically, this old man stumbled upon the mansion, a section of it he doesn't remember, and or like didn't remember building, and finds a picture of a woman, and then sees the woman, believing it's a ghost, and falls in love. And so Fred, Gregory, and the old man are like, "Oh, let's go find this ghost."
Yes, they're bringing a horse around this expensive mansion. I feel bad for the person who has to clean the rugs.
Yeah, and so Beatrice and Wirt accidentally get themselves locked in a cupboard, and they kind of explain their backstories. Wirt fell in love with a girl, and that's kind of it. Like, instead of actually having like guilty pleasures or anything, it's just character development.
I think that helps by Beatrice going first and being like, "Oh, my family was turned into bluebirds because I hit one with a rock."
Yeah, so basically, apparently, she was a douche to a to a bluebird, and the bluebird cursed her. So that's a thing. So basically, right now she's on a quest to Adelaide's supposed to help her turn human again, turn her own family human again. What they do is they find out that the cupboard actually has an opening They go through it, they find a passage, and they're in a new section that looks completely different to the mansion. Mm-hmm. The old man, now with the other group, the horse kind of comes to the conclusion that the old man probably murdered this lady, and the ghost is actually haunting him because he murdered her and stole all her money. What we find out is that it's actually two mansions that are so big that they take up the same space, and they basically kind of built into each other. Mm-hmm. And so the lady's not a ghost; she's just his neighbor, and they fall in love. They're apparently rival tea companies.
Yeah.
And so they're thankful that they were able to help them. The old man and the not dead lady gives them 2 pennies. Gregory takes it as an insult and throws it into a fountain. They no longer have money for the ferry.
Which doesn't turn out to be much of a problem in the next episode.
Yeah, so basically in the next episode, Lullaby in Frogland. Again, like I said before, the show really likes to just introduce, like, oh, hey, chapter, we're already a couple of notches ahead, you know? So they're already on the ferry. No explanation worth of money or what, they're just on the ferry. And then they're just kind of talking. And at this point, Beatrice starts to actually kind of like the boys. You can definitely tell that her attitude changes a little bit. And the first time viewing, you're kind of like, oh, she's still kind of being a little, pardon my French, but bitchy to them.
Cold shoulder.
Cold shoulder. It seems, you know, she's not being the nicest person. But from a second viewing, it's, oh, she's kind of changing her mind about what her plans are. Mm-hmm. She's kind of deciding that she doesn't want to take these kids to Adelaide. And so she's kind of cold against the idea. And it's really cool to really see that, you know, from 2 different viewings. So they're on the boat, and out of nowhere, some of the guards from the boat kind of jump up and are like, you know, hey, you guys. And they realize, oh, wait, we're in trouble because we snuck up, you know, we're on here.
Yeah, so they, and granted, all the people on the boat, walking frogs.
Yeah, which we failed to mention. There's a running joke in the series is that Gregory has a frog. I think we mentioned at the very beginning that he has one. And every episode, the frog has a new name.
Currently, it's George Washington in this episode.
Currently it's President George Washington, commonly referred to as Mr. President by Gregory. In the previous episodes, he had different names like Wirt Jr., Kitty, and various other things. But this is the only frog on the boat that's not clothed. He's just naked. And Gregory feels really bad because he feels like he needs socks. And
it's like, feel these cold feet.
No, he's a frog. He's supposed to be called, according to Wirt. And so there's kind of this like chase sequence throughout the whole thing. There's
Dead babies.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say it, so I was going to open the door for you. But yeah, it turns out that there's some tadpoles that are there, and for whatever reason on the floor.
Or no, like the couples the mom's holding them while they're taking a picture, and they knock into them. Tadpoles hit the floor, start bouncing. One of the officers just slips on it, and I'm just like, "That's a dead baby."
Yeah, so basically, officer steps on the baby. I think it's fine. We see it move a little bit, but according to Tristan, dead babies also bounce. I'm not familiar with that. Anyways, so they run around through and they hide and they find a disguise. Basically, Wirt sets the frog on his head. And they pretend, and then Gregory is a drum set, and they pretend to be part of the band. Which there's a part where like we were watching it together during the second viewing, and Gregory goes, "Hit me in the head like I'm a drum," or something like that. And like I don't know what you thought, but like it sounded very suggestive. But we both kind of turned and looked at each other like, "Oh, he just said that." And so the episode continues with. The Beatrice kind of trying to get Wirt to either give up, that way they don't have to go to Adelaide, so that, you know, they can spend the night in jail instead, you know.
Frog jail.
And, or they could, you know, play a different instrument. See, in the previous episode, one of the character traits that Wirt confessed to was that he plays the clarinet. Mm-hmm. And I forgot what item or instrument he played.
They, basically knock the bassoon player overboard.
Okay, and so Wirt becomes a bassoon player, even though he doesn't know how to play one. But they're like, it's the same thing. He turns out to be pretty decent at it, and then the frog, George Washington, actually can sing throughout the whole time. Further in the episodes or before, he doesn't talk at all. But just There we go.
Yeah,
That was pretty good. And then he sings, and he sings beautifully. This is one of the best songs in the whole thing, in my opinion.
I think it's tied to the opening song from the first episode.
And both cold opening, I guess, is it? No, or is it just book ending and opening? There's a frog playing a piano, and at both the ending and the part, and it turns out to be George Washington whatever his name is at the end. I think it's
Jason Thunderberger or something.
Jason Thunderberger. There you go. And so it's the same song, but it's so good and does set the tone so well.
Like it's the music is just all around, just very well placed and very like they got actual people schooled in the old operatic or the like 1920s style of singing.
Yeah. So the frogs, they're so happy with the music. They think it's awesome. Like the police frogs were gonna like see me using these political correct terms, police frogs. So they're gonna stop them, but then the people are like, no, let them play their music. Yeah, they mind it. They didn't say anything, but it's really well done. And so they're able to ride for free because they perform the entertainment. And then when they arrive to where they are, all the frogs start jumping into the mud for winter. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't know was a thing, but according to Tristan, my frog expert.
Hey, you're the one with a lizard.
Yeah, I do. He is currently sleeping. Kaiju. So at the end, they are all like, "What do we do?" Obviously, they want to go to Adelaide because they're so close, but Beach is like, we'll wait until tomorrow. And so they just kind of take a nap for a bit, and Wirt wakes up a little bit. And notices that Beatrice is leaving, just darts out of there. And so, of course, they wake him up, and they leave George Washington behind, because he just got a awesome contract to sing, which is cool. The other frogs offer him a contract, and they give him some socks. So finally he gets his socks, and the two boys chase after the bird, and they find Adelaide, and it's revealed that Beatrice was going to bring the boys to do yard work for the lady.
Adelaide basically wanted child servants.
Right, but Beatrice, her perspective was she thought they just wanted yard work, but instead Adelaide just wanted to remove their brains more or less, fill it with wool, wool.
Yeah.
And so you just control them so she doesn't have to do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a very, the perfect bit of grim fairy tale style witchery in this character. And
in exchange for a pair of scissors that are shaped like a bird, interesting, but if you clip the wings or clip the feathers of a bird that was turned or a human turned to bird, you turn back to human. Mm-hmm. So that was the exchange. But Beatrice has her heart grew 3 sizes or something, but she decides, no, I don't want to give up the boys, and I will be your slave instead. The boys stumble upon the place as she tries to make the deal. They misunderstood the situation and get captured for a moment, only for Beatrice to kill Adelaide with air. Turns out
night air.
It turns out night air is poisonous to her skin, and she opens up the window and she basically turns to dust. By the time the dust clears, the boys have already escaped. Turned out later on we find out that Wirt actually somehow got the
scissors.
The scissors, they become self-free. It doesn't make much sense, but alright, let's go with this. And that's it. We find the boys run into George Washington, who I guess turned down his awesome contract deal to hang out with the boys because he loves them so much. And and so that ends the episode with them feeling very betrayed from Beatrice.
Yeah. Well, Wirt feeling very betrayed. Gregory is blissfully ignorant.
Yeah, and Wirt doesn't want anything to do with her. What a break. Alright, so Chapter 7, The Ringing of the Bell. This one's another one that kind of takes a detour from the actual plot itself, but I definitely agree with you with the whole downtime. Like, after having that betrayal, and we really needed to set in a little bit, this is a really good kind of, turn off. Like, there's definitely action that happens into it. Mm-hmm. And now they don't have a goal. I mean, they obviously always want to go home, but, up to this point, they thought the solution to their problem was Adelaide, who turned out to be an evil witch.
Yeah, they took away their hope.
Yeah. So with the ringing of the bell, it's they find like an old house, which Gregory, out of nowhere, being really smart, normally blissfully ignorant to the world, just like, let's not go there. And then Wirt's like, let's go. And they find a place supposedly abandoned, but it has turtles and baskets and, has a fireplace and candles. And so they start to make themselves at home. They run to a beautiful young lady who seems to be a little sick. She warns them to leave before her auntie Whispers shows up. And they don't obviously leave in time, so they have to hide with the turtles. And this you described it as a Miyazaki. I don't want to take that from you.
She seems very influenced by I think it was Baba Yaga in Spirited Away. She's like a creature that is almost all head and little tiny arms and very ugly.
I don't believe it. According to Wikipedia, which I don't like to call Wikipedia by Wikipedia. I like to call it the Wikipedia. It's a community reference. Tim Curry played Auntie Whispers.
And John Cleese was Adelaide.
That's amazing.
They got some good voices for this.
Yeah, no. The voice talent, like, you can definitely tell that, to quote Jurassic Park, they spared no expense.
Best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the animation was really good. The character. We're going way too much into the wrap up. Let's finish up with this story. So Annie Whispers shows up, kind of senses that there's someone there, some souls for her to eat. It's implied that she eats souls.
Yeah, it's like, nobody will be devoured this night then.
But she pulls out a bell, and she's able to make the girl, I forgot what her name was. Lorna. To basically bend to her will by ringing the bell and just saying, you will do this, and she has to do it. And so, she forces them to tell the truth. The boys are there. And she just kind of decides without searching the book, it's like, oh, there's turtles there. So the turtles were the ones that were tasty. Takes a bite out of them, decides to go to sleep, rings the bell to make her work for the rest of the time. Wirt is like, obviously, which everyone in that situation would have been like, you're kind of being abused. Stop working. It's like, I have to work. And apparently the Auntie Whispers is doing this for her own good so that the evil doesn't take a hold of her, which we quickly find out
is the truth.
Is exactly the truth. There is a demon inside of her, or some kind of ghost thing, and the boys are able to stop the ghost by using the bell, which the frog ate, apparently. I blinked, I missed it.
It was off screen.
It was off screen, because this show loves to do that. It's done relatively well. There's only a couple of times between Wirt getting the scissors or the frog eating it, where it's like, I don't know if they were just like, oh, we don't have time, the scene was cut, so we just threw in a line real quick, or what. But it's one of those things where that's the only time it's a little weaker.
In this case, I feel it was almost a way to make the situation feel a little hopeless, and then Gregory's just like, the bell commands you! So
basically shakes the frog glows, which, by the way, at the end of the episode, at the end of the series, he shakes the frog again and it's glowing, which is really a really nice little nod to it, So shakes the frog, and which, by the way, fun fact, when Beatrice said that she owes these boys a favor in the second episode, the first thing Gregory was like, turn me into a special tiger. Well, in this one, Gregory shakes the frog, shakes the bell, and it's like, the bell commands you. Become a special tiger! Which, Wirt's just like, no, grabs it, and then says, banish spirit, basically. Spirit.
Why didn't Auntie Whispers ever think of that?
I think she might just enjoy the labor.
the free labor.
But, so the ghost spirit is vanished, to send out, and the girl is back to normal. A-okay. Auntie Whispers happy to have her daughter back, or I guess they're not technically related. It's said there that she's not her actual aunt, but she's a little sad that Miyazaki giant woman that's like, you're gonna leave me now. You don't need me. It's like, no, you're my family, which was a really nice little sentiment. I'm someone that comes from I don't have the closest ties when it comes to my family. My dad and I never really got along, so he was never really around. My mom, we never got along that much. She was kind of not ready to grow up to have me, and I spent a lot of time at, my neighbors. So, I don't have the best, family relations. So, I consider friends and, people that are around me a lot to be family. That I hold that stronger to me than actual family.
Yeah.
So, my chosen family, if you will. So, this was a really good sentiment for me. I was like, oh, that's cool,
Yeah, no. It was definitely a family is what you make it episode.
Yeah, what's interesting, I don't know if we find out in this one, but we find out eventually that Wirt and Gregory aren't actually brothers. Well, they're brothers, but they're only half-brothers.
Half-brothers.
Apparently Gregory's, stepdad, or, Wirt's stepdad is Gregory's father. And it's, mentioned, twice. And it's really subtle. First time, it's just, you're not even my full brother, I think. He directly says it to Gregory. And there's another point where, Wirt's just blaming all his problems on everyone else, and he kind of throws, and your dad.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
They kind of remind me a lot of TK
and Matt.
Yeah.
I knew as soon as I mentioned that, I was like, oh, Digimon. I love Digimon, by the way. We can do a podcast talking about Digimon.
Oh, the 15th anniversary episode's coming up.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
Probably won't be dubbed, but...
I need my dub, though. Digimon is best in English.
I will agree there.
All right, so the next episode, Babes in the Woods, Chapter 8. This is another one that, is... I really appreciate the episode, but it's definitely up there in the schoolhouse episode where it's Gregory focused, he sings, and the song's not my favorite thing, but what's really cool about this... Basically, okay, so at the end of the other episode... I guess I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, didn't I? I feel like I'm missing something with the woodsman.
Oh, yeah. The woodsman has another talk with the beast about how it's a good thing the boys didn't beat him, because elsewise he wouldn't get any wood.
Right. So what we slowly find out, either now or a little bit later, is that in the unknown, if you kind of give up hope, you become the trees that the woodsman's been cutting down. And so the beast is the creature who kind of takes those souls and converts them into the trees. And also a really cool little note is that even though it's after they run into Adelaide, the creepy Auntie Whispers is actually the sister of Adelaide.
Yes.
And makes a quick little note hey, by the way, if you run into my sister, avoid her. Don't run into her.
Thanks for the late advice, lady.
Yeah, they already destroyed her, so it's okay.
Yeah, we kind of killed your sister, bye. What?
Yeah. So at this point, what's really interesting is that, even though I feel like the boys just had a nice little trump, they beat, they helped someone, Wirt finally kind of stops, he starts giving up a little bit. I think he's a little bit worried about not going home, and he just starts going into kind of a depression at this point. It starts right here, right at the end, and then it picks up in the next one. But yeah, so the woodsman appears up real quick. We find out a little bit more. We kind of missed it in the previous episode with the Fred the horse. We were so excited to talk about Fred the horse. But in the tavern episode, what's notable about it is that the woodsman comes up. We find out the backstory of the beast a little bit more. But to the boys, as the people are describing the beast, which they're like, oh yeah, he's tied to a lantern, They're like, oh wait, no, the beast doesn't have the lantern. It's the woodsman. So at this point, the boys think the woodsman is also the beast. Mm-hmm. They think they're one and the same. So in the Babes in the Woods, Gregory kind of gives up for a moment. I think this is the part where he blames his brother.
Where Wirt blames Gregory, yeah.
Wirt blames Gregory and his stepfather. I think this is where the line is. And they just kind of, they're on a boat, or I think they're on an outhouse.
No. This is oh, right, yeah. Where they're sailing along. And
yeah. So the episode begins with them sailing down a lake, and the boat is actually an outhouse they tipped over. Which is fun, yeah. And Gregory's really the only one that's pushing forward. Wirt's just kind of talking about the beast and we're screwed, we're over. Can we stop pretending that we're gonna make it home? Mm-hmm. So at this point, he's no longer even willing to go on the adventure. It's starting to become winter, which was indicated by the frogs hibernating before, which was really cool. So Gregory's like, okay, fine, I'll be the leader. I don't know what to do, but I'll be a leader. And they go to sleep, and Gregory has a nice little fever dream, I guess, where these heads with wings appear, and Gregory leaves his body and just kind of goes into this wacky, heavenly land, where it's just these creatures. All the characters that from this point on, besides Gregory, are more vibrant. They're very different. They're out of style. They're not the same thing. Obviously the line quality is the same, and different elements are consistent with the art direction. but now they're very 1930s rubber hose cartoon characters.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, it reminds me, like, the first thing that I thought of was, again, you guys probably never heard of it, but me and Tristan remember watching it on Cartoon Network way back when. It's a little Audrey cartoon where it's this redheaded little girl, and she's cooking, like, she's baking. She's trying to make gingerbread men, and she falls asleep, and you find out that she has a dream where everyone that's in the world is now food creatures, and there's like an angel food cake woman that is being married to the gingerbread man, and the devil's food cake's very upset by this and chases after him. It's a really cute short. It's one of my favorites, actually. It's one of those ones that just always stayed with me. I think I had it on VHS, and occasionally I'll like go and look it up and watch it again. And that's what the colors, the art style, the animation, everything. The
musical number, even.
The musical number, everything in Babes in the Wood remind me of that. And there's a lot of shorts in that era that's very similar to that. So, like, it probably wasn't directly referenced to it, but it was definitely referenced to something in that, like, line of cartoons. Oh, yeah. And with this, some storm creatures, which everything feels like it's very much created by Gregory, so it's definitely in his mind. Like, me and Tristan had a little bit of a discussion. Is it part of this world, or is it just a dream? Judging by the fact that they do show clips of Gregory still moving around and tossing and turning with it, it's definitely probably just a dream. It's like him kind of telling himself how to be leader. After he saves the day from these, like, storm creatures, he's able to defeat them by, like, cannonballs and different stuff. And the queen of the clouds appear, and she offers to grant him one wish, and it's to take him and his brother home. And the queen just goes, sorry, but he's already taken. Turns out Wirt is already starting to turn into a tree.
Yeah, he's got vines growing around him as he sleeps and whatnot.
So which means he's no longer, like, he just can't go home. He's done. And this is one thing that really annoyed me about this, was Gregory's like, well, I know what to do, and whispers to her. And this is one of the things where it's like, what is the point? In the story, he's not hiding it from anyone, it's just hiding it from the viewer. And this is the first time that the show has, like, did that purposely. Like, every other time it worked in the narrative, there wasn't any, like, overbearing, like, tropes to, like, force the viewer to not know. It was just they didn't show a scene, or they showed the scene too early, or as we'll find out in the next episode, they just played things out of order. And which is a very cool narrative, but this time it's like directly, like, just cheaply just going, I know what I want to do. Can we do that? Sure. Just for it to be revealed later. And this is the one time it takes a cheap shot.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's not really clear what Gregory asks for. I mean, at best we can tell basically he is convinced to go in place of Wirt.
Yeah.
Towards the beast.
And so the episode ends with Wirt, not Wirt, Gregory coming to Wirt, trying to talk to him for a moment. Wirt kind of brushes him off again, doesn't want anything to do with him, just wants to sleep. And Gregory's okay, and just leaves with the beast. Wirt now no longer covered in vines.
Well, Wirt just wakes up and pulls them off.
Yeah.
But then he tries to run after Gregory and ends up almost drowning in a frozen lake. Only to, be saved by, it was Beatrice.
Saved by Beatrice and the fish that fishes. The fish fishes and caught a human. And a frog. So, the next episode is, again, this is what I'm talking about, how the show does it really, really well to, like, reveal certain things by not playing it in the right order. Episode Chapter 9, Into the Unknown, takes place before Chapter 1. Most of it. The last, 2 minutes of it take place after, or, picks up right where, it turns out Wirt is actually dreaming about how he got to the unknown.
Yeah.
Which, it could be that Wirt didn't actually know. There's a little bit of hints in the first episode where it's just like, do you even know how we got here? Like, he says it a couple of times.
Yeah.
And judging by, this is his turning point, this is when Wirt actually, during the hero's, journey, the whole story circle, this is the part of the circle where the character has the realization, and we're about to, becomes a person, learns this lesson. So, what we do is we find out that it is Halloween, and what was really cool about this is that these characters are dressed really weird.
Yeah, doesn't really say what era.
Right, like Wirt is dressed with a cape or a cloak and has a dwarf hat, and then Gregory is dressed like kind of like a 1980s or 1930s little boy with a pot on his head, like a teapot.
I almost thought it was like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah,
like his style.
This looked like it was like like the 1800s or something. It was definitely like felt like it was was it modern day? Well, it turns out it is modern day. And so these two, turns out Gregory is dressed like an elephant, according to Gregory. He just has an upside down pot on his head and teapot, and Wirt's dressed like gnome. It's not really explained. We see him come out with this costume. Someone asks him what he is, and they kind of like say, "Oh, what are you, a gnome?" Kind of insulting him. And what we find out is that Wirt likes a girl. He made a mixtape. Aw, what a sweetheart. Maybe a little stalkerish, but he made a tape full of poetry, clarinet playing, and just a lot of stuff that may be embarrassing. He plans on giving it to the girl that he likes, whose name is Sarah.
Uh-huh.
And Sarah turns out to be the mascot to their football games.
No, I think that was just him looking at the football game trying to find her.
No.
It really was?
No, because she says mascot. Like, it's mentioned in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think he was staring at the mascot. And so, basically, Gregory kind of does what he does and takes the tape and introduces himself to Sarah's friends, who... there's one that's dressed like an egg. Hilariously, she just goes, I'm dressed as an egg. We know!
That was some almost community-style humor right there.
Yeah, it's just very, very, like, hateful friends, but Gregory basically just kind of, reveals to those friends that Wirt's into Sarah. It gives them the mixtape, and Wirt doesn't really know what to do. He seems pretty okay with it. They're kind of teasing him, but it's how he feels. And
then he finds out.
And then they mention that Jason Thunderburger,
something like that.
Let me find this. Thunderburger. Jason
Fred Burger.
No. Jason Thunderburger is going to ask out Sarah, and so there we go. And, Wirt, being the non-confrontal, kind of giving up really quickly guy, kind of gives up there, freaks out a little bit, and runs away. It turns out that Sarah's friends didn't tell her about the tape, but put it in her coat. They decide, Wirt and Gregory are like, oh, we can still do it, we can still save this. So they go find her coat, try to take it away from her, but as soon as they try to, someone notices, they run away. She puts on the coat. She's dressed now as a zombie clown?
Dead clown, as best I could tell.
Dead clown, and they go to a party, which, by the way, this is something really cool and really relatable to Wirt, for me at least, is that they find out that she's going to a party. They basically stalk her. they're following her.
So that's what you have experience with.
No. Maybe twice. But the restraining orders don't mean nothing for love. But no, so what happens is they go to this thing, and Wirt's, Gregory's like, oh, let's go. She's right there. And he goes, I wasn't invited to the party. And Gregory's like, well, I'll go. It's like, you weren't invited either. Oh.
And then just wanders in.
But they wander in, and no one's like, Wirt, what are you doing here? It's like, oh, hey, Wirt. And it's like, when I was in high school, that was me. I was Wirt. Like, I realized that at that point. Apparently I thought I was hated in high school. Like, I thought, like, I was alone. No one noticed me. No one cared. And then after high school, Facebook popped up, and everyone's just like, hey, Steve, what's up? I really liked your drawings. I was more loved than I thought I was. You know? And Wirt's definitely in that same boat of, like, he thought everyone, doesn't like him or wasn't aware of him and, wasn't invited. But clearly it was. In fact, he was invited to the next activity that Sarah goes to, which she's like, what's really cool is this is really good, both acting and animation, where when they interact with Sarah, the first time Wirt does, it's definitely implied, and it's not like overly done, but Sarah clearly likes Wirt. And it's done just the subtle things of like, oh hey, she's trying to invite him to the next thing that they're going to because they're about to leave the party to drink age appropriate drinks. But yeah, so they're just really subtle. It's not like I like you or like, you know, blushing or anything like that. It's just through her talk and like, you know, how eager she is for him to show up to another party or, you know, are you coming? I hope you do. It's very subtle and it's very realistic, and relationships and stuff is never done realistically like that in cartoons.
Teenagers aren't ever done realistically.
No.
Kids and teenagers.
But nothing's done realistically in cartoons. That's why it's a cartoon.
True.
But Wirt one more time tries to take the tape from the thing, but instead Sarah mistakes him, thinking she's, you know, getting the coat for her, and they basically like, hey, we're going to the cemetery. Come with us, please. You know. And and so he's like, maybe he you know, he's unsure, he's a little nervous about it, and they go and they decide to try to get the tape one more time. So they go to the cemetery, and Jason Funderburger kind of like makes his move on Sarah, where he's telling a ghost story at a point where he grabs her arm. And, you know, in the story, or, like, the story he's telling, it makes sense. It's supposed to be kind of scary. But then, like, he holds on too long. And it's definitely, like, indicates to the audience that, oh, she has no interest in him.
Yeah.
But Wirt sees it as, so he sends Gregory to do his thing, which...
Distraction!
Distract her real quick. And basically Gregory's like, I'll be a dead elephant. And he takes off the pot, and runs around with the pot, and is like, I'm a headless elephant, or a floating head. And, you know, they're just like, is that Wirt's little brother?
Yeah, and I like how accepting they are of Wirt's little brother. Like, aw, you know, let him join us.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, you mentioned it while we were watching it, was like, there's this recurring thing where, like, Wirt puts a lot of blame or embarrassment towards Gregory, and then every time we see anyone interact with Gregory, there's nothing but compassion or like, you know, they're all like, oh, it's a cute little kid. It's all in Wirt's mind, which I think is kind of an overarching plot.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big thing here. One of my favorite jokes in this part is that they mentioned that the age-appropriate drinks, which this show is very similar to Gravity Falls, not in the sense there's I guess it does have mystical creatures, but it centers around mystery. So I guess it is very much like Gravity Falls. But one thing is, like, I'm noticing both of these shows have very, like, touched upon some more things that I would think is a little risque for kids. And one of them is drinking alcohol is mentioned in both. Gravity Falls more often because it's a little bit longer, but like in Gravity Falls, there's a part where the lumberjack, they're at a party, has a keg, and you know, kegs are usually associated with beer and alcohol, and he just shouts, "This is full of meat," which is like, I guess Disney, like, okay, the kids think it's full of meat now. And there's another like end tag where Grunkle Stan winds up going to Vegas, and they're drinking obviously champagne. But it's clearer than regular champagne. It's not like the yellow tint. And on the bottle it says rich people water. and just to drill it in more that they're not drinking champagne, there's a song playing in the background. We're drinking water! So with Over the Garden Wall, it's basically... it's basically just going, we're going to drink age-appropriate drinks. You mean like juice? Yeah, age-appropriate.
You know, whatever.
So, as their, you know, Wirt's position is revealed, you know, he pops up, cops show up, chase him over, and this is where the show gets its name. They climb over a garden wall, or the cemetery wall, and to escape the cops, because they're trespassing in the cemetery, which is no-go, especially not on Halloween. And they jump over it, which, there's a great line, it's like, jump off the wall! No, I'm on the other side! They jump over the wall, and immediately almost get hit by a train.
Oh, wait.
Well,
they find the frog first.
They find the frog, and right before they jump off, before they find the frog and before they jump off, Wirt sees Sarah and Jason Funderburger they find the tape, and, you know, Jason's just like, let's watch it, let's make fun, you know, like, he's ready to, like, you know, make fun of it and such, because he still thinks he's in, you know, he's going to get Sarah. And Sarah's just kind of like, I don't know what this is, you know? And then that throws Wirt over the edge, literally, because he jumps over the edge, and they find the frog, they almost get hit, and they tumble into the unknown. Mm-hmm. And which ends the chapter with Wirt waking up and finding Beatrice's family. Apparently, someone left him outside their place. It could have been Beatrice, could have been someone else, but it's implied that it's Beatrice. Left him there, and the mother's taking care of him, feeding him dirt. And he heads out to, you know, to find Gregory, because he realizes now that it's not Gregory's fault, and he wasn't he was being too much of a jerk. Like right before they almost get hit by the train, he insults Gregory, just being a terrible older brother. And so when he wakes up, he realizes that he needs to be a decent person.
Yeah.
Which reflects in the first episode when the woodsman, basically Gregory's insulting Wirt's insulting Gregory by, this is all your fault. The woodsman's just like, no, it's your fault. You're the eldest brother. You have the responsibility of the actions, which, that's the whole, that's the point. So, Wirt's like, screw it, let's go. It's winter, it's a snowstorm, but I'm going to find my brother. And, of course, immediately crashes into water. Like, he climbs on ice and...
No, that was how he ended up in this situation. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because it was Beatrice and the fish fisherman that saved him from the water. No, he just heads off into the winter storm to find Gregory.
Okay, you're right. Sorry.
And that kind of leads us to the next episode.
I'm double checking real quick. I'm reading the Wikipedia. Talk while I'm doing this. This is boring TV.
How about them sports teams? No.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. So basically he wanders. He finds Gregory, who's already starting to become a tree. In a previous scene, Gregory has been toying in a way. Like, he's been just kind of been a pain in the side of the beast.
Well, the beast has been giving him these Herculean tasks.
Yeah. So the beast is like, oh, hey, do this. And for most people, it's like, it's impossible. But Gregory is just like, thinks in a different way that most people wouldn't. Like, capture the sun in this, cup. And, most people are like, you can't do that. And Gregory is like, all right. He sets the cup down in a way to where when the sun sets, it's going to, go into the cup in a way. Visually, in that perspective, it would. Yeah,
and Beatrice almost stumbles upon them, if not for some of the wind. Like, she sees Gregory, and then she's blown back straight into Wirt's face.
Right. So, by the time Wirt gets there, which it's really weird because it's like Gregory is like, obviously owning the beast, but then when we find him, he's already kind of, he's starting to become a tree. So the beast finally wore him down. And, Wirt's upset, the woodsman shows up, and, there's a little bit of a battle between the woodsman and the beast, and, so, like, Wirt doesn't know what to do, and the beast tries to make a deal with him, saying that, hey, I will put your brother's soul into this lantern that the woodsman's been carrying, which apparently currently houses the soul of the woodsman's daughter, and basically to keep Gregory alive, which I don't know how that's living, is to feed the lantern oil. Keep the lantern lit, and Gregory will stay alive.
The oil of lost souls.
Mm-hmm. And Wirt's about to do it because he wants to be a good brother. And then for a moment he just like, wait, no, it's stupid. Literally says that. And, no, this is stupid. And decides, no, I don't want to wander the woods forever. No, that's screw this. You act like this lantern. You're not trying to help me. You're trying to help yourself. You act like this lantern has your own soul. And this is at the point where everyone kind of realizes, oh, the daughter's not in there. The soul of the beast is there. Mm-hmm. And so, like, Wirt attempts, like, about to, like, blow out the candle of the lantern to, get rid of the beast. The beast freaks out a little bit, and then he decides, you know what, woodsman, this is your responsibility. I'm going to take care of my brother. And so, which is a really good callback to the beginning, the first part, where they were talking about, like, oh, no, this is your responsibility. Now, he's
actually taking it.
Yeah. And so the woodsman, threatens, and then he gets very upset to find out that his daughter is not actually, he hasn't been helping his daughter this entire time. The beast says that if he blows it out, he'll never see his daughter again. The woodsman blows it out. The beast gets There's a really creepy shot where we actually see the beast, because for up to this point, the beast has been shown in darkness. Mm-hmm. And then we see through the lantern that, like, he's made up of, like, woodland dead skinless creatures or something.
It's like just wood. It's a tree.
Is it a tree?
Yeah.
Okay, because, like, I got the impression that it was, like, skinless things, but it happens for, like, 2 frames, and so, like, it's something a horror movie should learn.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because it reveals what he is, but doesn't at the exact same time, which is really, really sweet, and I much prefer that. Like, I have tempted to just go and find a image, but at the exact same time, I'm kind of just enjoying my imagination filling that up.
Oh yeah.
So that resolves that. Wirt and Gregory, Wirt takes Gregory out. Beatrice is a little bit like worried about them, and basically Wirt's like, oh, by the way, I stole these scissors for you. enjoy this. Because he wanted Beatrice to come with him, but Beatrice is like, well, I gotta take care of my family. You know, I have a home too. And so he hands him that, and she's like, you had him the entire time? He goes, yeah, I did. I used him to escape Italy, and I was also mad at you. He hands her that, she goes on her way, and then immediately we find out that, like, he's like, as soon as he starts walking out of the woods, it cuts to them underwater. They've apparently been drowning the entire time. And so, he wakes up, he pulls them out, he passes out. There's a quick scene showing them going to the hospital in the ambulance. He wakes up, he kind of finally makes his first move with Sarah. Gregory makes a little joke. The frog is now named Jason Funderburger. Jason Funderburger finds that cool, but he's like, "Oh, is that our frog? No, it's our frog, not yours." And it ends basically there with Jason Funderburger, the frog, singing the epilogue version of the theme song.
Yeah, and I'd almost say we shouldn't reveal some of the stuff that the little epilogue says, because it's just some great stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, I'm assuming most people already watched it.
Yeah,
I would hope.
True.
I would hope, because we just explained everything.
Everything.
Well, for the most part, we left some things vague because we don't want this to be 5 hours long.
Oh yeah.
For the most part, us explaining it's about the same time, the running time of the actual show. Most pointless podcast ever. Next week, when we talk about stuff, it will be a series. So we're going to talk about Ben 10, Omniverse. I'm really excited about that because Ben 10's a guilty pleasure. By the way, this sounds like I'm ending it, but we're not, because I still want to talk about, like...
Yeah, we still got some... the whole thing, really goes into just the Grimm's fairy tale, but also Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, okay. So, the theory that we thought when we watched the first episode was they're dead. I think we mentioned that already, but there's just, like, after... Because at that point, I hadn't seen the last 2 episodes. I saw up to that point... And it definitely, everything made me feel like after the pumpkin episode where the skeletons and they hinted that this is where people go to die, this definitely made me feel like the unknown or the woods is purgatory or some kind of place between death and life, Mm-hmm. This is like where people spend before they're ready to move on to their final spot, whatever you believe in. And so, which brings up a really good question. What exactly is Beatrice? And her family, they clearly live in the unknown. So are they spirits that are in between, not quite ready to live beyond? Or is the unknown an actual place?
Yeah, it's the Wizard of Oz problem, because when Dorothy wakes up, does that mean nothing she experienced happened?
Was it a dream? Should we electrocute her in the sequel? I don't know if you guys ever seen Return to Oz, but it's a Disney film sequel where the chick from The Craft, the gothic one, plays Dorothy as a kid. She's younger than the other one, but it's a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, but not. And it starts out with her talking about the Wizard of Oz, the Oz, and everyone thinks she's crazy, and they try to electrocute the crazy out of her, because in the 1930s, that's what they did. So, it's if you want to, actually, I recommend it. If you liked Over the Garden Wall, I think you would enjoy Return to Oz. It's got that same kind of creepiness, a little bit more bright, a little bit dark. It's got some great stop motion animation with the Gnome King.
Oh, yeah.
But, and the Wheelers will creep you out, especially if you're really young. But check out the Return of Oz. I think that would be really sweet. So we don't know if, Beatrice and them are because the woodsman I could tell it would be a wandering soul. The tavern people, the lady who, was looking for love at the schoolhouse,
every one of them had something keeping them there.
Yeah. There was something that Tristan noticed that I didn't in the background with one of the graves.
Oh, yes, when Wirt and Gregory are at the cemetery and they're peeking over, one of the graves has the name of the tea guy.
The guy in the mansion, because we didn't really talk so much about the tea thing. But yeah, so the guy in the tea, I didn't notice it because I'm really bad with names. I kept forgetting them.
Quincy Aldocott, that was the name.
By the way, I should also mention that we have not seen the original pilot that aired last year for this. Apparently there was a pilot called, let me
Tome of the Unknown.
Tome of the Unknown. And I couldn't find it online. I really tried because I wanted to talk about that in this part of this retrospective podcast. But no, nothing there. Couldn't find it. Instead, it kept coming with the Unknown Soldier, different things, which was a completely different cartoon. But yeah, so let's see here. There was a lot I want to talk about, but I can't remember. We talked so much about this already.
We hit a lot of good points. I mean, there was something I forgot to mention about the mansion episode.
Okay.
It felt like a bit of a reference to, have you ever heard of the old Winchester mansion?
It sounds familiar, but...
It was like crazy old lady. She was the heir to the Winchester gun fortune, but she felt that since it was tied to so much bloodshed, she never stopped having her mansion built.
Huh.
So there are like all these twisty corridors and stairways that lead to nothing.
Okay, I've definitely heard about this. Yeah.
And then the whole part with Beatrice and Wirt in the armoire just gave me a bit of a Lion, the Witch, and a Wardrobe feel.
Yeah.
Because like they even find a secret passage in it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we forgot to mention, again, we probably did, but it's been so long, was in the mansion episode, Fred leaves the group.
Yeah.
Like Fred is in there for like 2 episodes, and he's really funny. Like, everything he did when he's on screen is hilarious. I love his voice actor. I love the character a lot, and I'm a little bummed that he only appears in like the 2-part, you know? But he decides that at this one point in the mansion, he's scared of dying, and he goes, I'll straighten up, I'll stop stealing, I'll get a real job. And at the end of the episode, he gets a real job working as a tea carrying horse.
Mm-hmm. And I love that he almost felt like he was kind of animated in that, I want to say the Ren and Stimpy way, where like, even though it's a 4-legged animal, they'd show his like hooves doing hand things.
Yeah, it definitely did, even though he stands up.
Yes.
He was a really great character. But yeah, so let's talk about our favorite episode. And well, you guys already know the episode I don't like, which is it's a tie between the School Town Follies and the the Babes in the Woods, which I like Gregory as a character, but I don't like the episodes centered around him, especially when he sings.
He's as a friend of mine said, he's a lot like Chris Farley. He's best as a side character.
Yeah. But that and just as a foil to Wirt.
Yeah.
You know, when he's not, it's just no point.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I think my favorite episode was probably the Lullaby to Frogtown.
Okay.
It just reminded me a lot of the old, what were the name of those books? Wind in the Willows? Where it was like the frog and the gecko and the shrew, and they all wore proper British attire and drank tea and stuff. Mr. Frog and Mr. Badger, that kind of stuff. It just felt very reminiscent of that, and then just the beautiful music and the steamboat and all that stuff. It was just very well put together, and then, I got my sick jollies in with the dead tadpole joke.
For me, my favorite episode had to be either Into the Unknown, the backstory episode, where they finally reveal, basically it takes place not in the unknown, which is really cool, or the mansion episode. Mm-hmm. I really, really enjoyed the mansion episode. Like I said, I thought that was where the show really hit its tone and its story, what it wanted to be.
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for this to be on DVD, because I hope the DVD actually, cuts it together as a movie, because that definitely feels like what this was intended to be.
No, I definitely agree with that. Though it might be a little disjointed, especially with some of the scenes just cutting into, from one episode from Mad Love, we have them, throwing away the money, and then immediately afterwards in the Lullaby, they're on the boat. So it might be a little weird. It's definitely was cut to be, a TV miniseries, but this was great. I'm really glad they did 2 episodes per day instead of dragging this off 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. With this being a shorter spurt, there's only 10 episodes. They're about 11 minutes long each. It's a really solid short miniseries. And it's probably one of the most pieced together pieces of of a cartoon series that Cartoon Network's ever done.
Yeah, no, I've never known them to do something like this. Never do a 11-minute episodes used to be purely the realm of Adult Swim.
Yeah, but I think they found through Adult Swim that we could produce one episode and air it twice. Cut it in half and make double the money.
Yeah.
Why not? So, for the most part, a common cartoon season now is 13 episodes for the most part. Originally it was 26, but so now what they're doing is they're still ordering 13 episodes. It's just it's cut into 2 parts. So so it's really 26 11-minute shorts instead of 13 22-minute shorts.
Yeah, and this is the first one I've watched that could really carry a story that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Adventure Time kind of depends on people watching it all the time.
Yeah.
For any story developments that take place, and even those don't come into play.
Yeah, cause, I mean, like, I haven't watched Adventure Time in a while, which I'm sure I just, like, lost. Like, 5 people just clicked off.
It's like, done.
Yeah, I'm over this. But yeah, like, with Adventure Time, I've watched the first season and just kind of never, like, got any farther with it. Mm-hmm. Maybe if I actually had cable, I would probably watch it more. But, like, I never, like, felt, man, I need to seek it out, you know? Not like, in comparison to, say, like, Steven Universe or Gravity Falls or the Ninja Turtle cartoon, where, like, I watch every week. I'm just like, where's my show? You know, like, is it online yet?
It's like me with my Japanese Bugman shows.
Those I don't get.
But you still get the idea of, it's like what it used to be when it was Saturday morning. We're sitting there waiting for that shit.
So the art style, really good. Really simple, but the backgrounds are really detailed. The characters themselves, they kind of have like a Animal Crossing-esque look to them with like shapes for noses and bigger eyes. Something that really I noticed was Gregory and Wirt. They both have like, with Wirt he has smaller eyes, but I think no, he has bigger eyes but smaller pupils, and Gregory has like slightly smaller eyes but big pupils. Like,
Gregory looks like he's on frog acid. He been licking that toad.
But yeah, I mean, like, this, I'm just amazed and very impressed with the people that worked on it. There's a lot of really powerful names. Like, we talked about powerful names. I think of artists as like power levels, like Dragon Ball Z. Like for example, the Songs of the Dark Lantern episode, the one that you kind of like with, because just how weird it is. Apparently it was written, storyboarded by Pendleton Ward, Burt Young, and Steve McLeod. I don't know the other names, but I definitely know Penn Ward.
Yeah,
you know, the creator of Adventure Time.
I mean, that definitely explains the Highwaymen and the Betty Boop stuff. I mean,
there's also apparently Into the Unknown, my favorite episode. I like it a lot because it's such a departure. So let's talk about that real quick. That was something you brought up that was really good. Apparently, let's see here. One of the guys that worked on that episode that writ and storyboarded also did Adventure Time and Flapjack. Which I think a lot of people worked on this because it has a lot of similar style choices. Though I think the show looks a lot more pretty or a lot more enjoyable.
Some of the characters in the Babes in the Wood one, straight up the head shape and everything was Flapjack. It was like the hair and.
So one cool thing about this is like the show, this particular thing really likes to make you believe one thing and then subvert it and just change it at the end. If they would have showed the beginning with the whole Halloween thing, it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting. They decided to do non-linear storytelling with it, and it worked out great. It was really cool to it hit you. You're like, oh, okay, so this explains everything. Oh, that's why Wirt's kind of a nub. And so I thought that was really impressive. One thing that we weren't really sure. Up until that point, when did this show take place?
Yeah, it was a show, don't tell.
Yeah, I mean, because they're wearing costumes, and so, they could have been, fairy tale aged or something, And instead, they turned out to be present day. It's just, it's not the kid's weird because he wears a hat. They're definitely stylistic choices, and they were really good designs. Don't let me, if I sound like I'm negative or anything. Though, I do think both the pot and the gnome hat would have been lost by now. There's no way, because it's really weird how, how much they keep grabbing it, they keep falling off. I feel like if this was real life, especially in some of the dangerous situations they've been in, they would not have taken it. They would have just left it, you know what I mean? But they stuck with it because that's part of the character design. That's what the model sheet says.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something. I'm kind of having a blank spot in my brain.
Dead air. Perfect for podcasts. Because I don't want to talk too much.
Yeah, no, and just non-linear storytelling. I mean, it's such a rarity, especially in kids' shows. And I don't consider this a kid show. This was an animated feature that just couldn't get into movies.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is, according to the TV rating, it was PG, which I don't know if they're, like, what that exactly means anymore. I used to, but...
It's above Y7, so it can have more disturbing content than, say, Power Rangers.
Okay. Yeah, like, well, okay, let's talk about that real quick, because a lot of times people think cartoons equal kids. It automatically equals kids. Even with shows like Family Guy or Futurama or The Simpsons or different things like that.
Those are considered subversive because they're cartoons that are not for kids.
Right, but like, we'll take Cartoon Network. Back when it first started, and back when television first started, things weren't about the demographics. It was about the niche. We had Tech TV. Guess what that was about?
Technology.
Tech. Yeah. MTV. That was about music. Sci-Fi was about sci-fi. Cartoon Network was about cartoons. There was no, oh man, this is a cartoon made for kids. It was, cartoons were made for anyone. Whoever enjoyed, lines moving around and colors. And, well, what happened was they found that television commercials, people are like, selling, to make money, we play commercials, right? You guys are familiar with that. You're on YouTube, right? And so they wanted to hit a certain demographic. That equals more money to them. They're like, well, if this show, kids, so like someone making Super Soakers, like, well, this show, more kids are watching it than anything else. We're going to pay you more to put that there. Mm-hmm. And so for money reasons, television kind of switched it from being about the niche, being about a certain hobby or something interest, it became more about the demographic. So kids kind of shifted to, or cartoons got shifted to kids because they were the ones watching it the most. Tech TV became G4 and became like,
non-existent.
Well, that and 20-year-olds. And that's why, Tech TV became G4 and started showing Cops and The Man Show and things that aren't associated with, technology. MTV stopped being about music and started becoming more about teenage drama reality shows. Because
TLC stopped being about the Learning Channel and more about the lowest common denominator.
Yeah. Sci-fi stopped being about sci-fi and started being about tornadoes and tornadoes and sharks.
And wrestling. Can't forget the wrestling.
So that's what happened in television. That's why television sucks now. But so with cartoons, you tend to associate them with kids because of this little shift,
Yeah, but the thing is you can tell a good story that will be entertaining for a kid as well for an adult.
Well, people forget that. People just assume, well, why are you guys looking, why did you guys just spend an hour and a half talking about analyzing a cartoon for kids? And it's like, well, adults made it. Adults were paid to make it. They someone had to craft the story, and if you're going to have to craft a story, even if you don't care and it's just your job, you shouldn't. You're in the wrong industry. You stop making cartoons. Adults made it, and you should be enjoying it. This should be something you're proud of, and I don't know.
I mean, we haven't seen... Of late, there hasn't been as much care in the making of cartoons. Like, it used to be, like, the Batman the Animated Series era, where they cared about getting the most entertainment for any age out of what they were doing.
And there's definitely cartoons that go out of this. Like, look at Dan Versus. That's on the Hub. I don't know if that's for kids. I don't know if it's for adults. I don't know what it's for because it definitely bounces between that. Like, it looks cute, it's got appealing designs and it's got some childish things into it, stuff that I don't think most adults be like, yeah, that's cool, Most of the time it's like, oh, that's what, it's definitely for the kids. But then they make jokes about jury duty and just a bunch of different stuff. Like, kids have no concept of, but boom, there you go, that's a cartoon. And I what's weird is most of the adult cartoons I don't really like the quote unquote adult cartoons. I mean, obviously I enjoy The Simpsons to a certain degree now. I loved it before. I think that's everyone's though. Futurama is great. You got Bob's Burgers, which is great. But then you have certain things like Family Guy and American Dad and anything on Adult Swim that's not Venture Brothers. And I actually kind of like Mike Tyson Mysteries. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't watched it yet. But, a show I miss on Adult Swim is Metalocalypse.
Yeah.
Just because I love heavy metal, and that show made fun of it but it loved it at the same time.
But my problem with a lot of these adult cartoons, the quote-unquote adult cartoons, it seems more about the shock humor. Like, it's never about, like, producing a really fun cartoon. It's about how can you be the most offensive as possible.
It's like, hey, look, we can't do this in live action, but we can do it with a cartoon.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I gravitate towards kids' cartoons. And again, we don't even know. Like, it's obviously on Cartoon Network. It's obviously, toys were shown between the, segments. But it's not just a kids' cartoon. I'm a 20-something-year-old. You're a 20-something-year-old. And we were, like, hooked on it. We did nothing, we watched it for, 2 hours together just to talk about it some more,
I mean, definitely entertainment was had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, who's your favorite character?
I'd probably say, oh, Lord. It's so hard to decide, because, I mean, like, they all have their good traits. I mean, I find Gregory a tad annoying, but it's because I had a little brother, too.
I didn't, so I did find him annoying.
Okay.
But adorably annoying.
Yeah, no, he was adorable. He's like the kids we keep candy under the desk at work, and if kids come in, we're just like, hey, you're a nice kid, take candy.
That sounds really creepy. Hello, kids. Enjoy.
I don't work in a white van, damn it.
I have some Laffy Taffy.
I need to go raid the Halloween candies now. I'm hungry for candy.
My favorite character is probably Beatrice. I think I like her the most.
She was definitely the most, like, she had her problems, and she kind of kept them to herself until it was too late.
I know. I realized that we're totally missing the point. The best character is Fred the Horse. But no, Beatrice is probably my favorite. I think she's, like... I love the personality put through her. She's the most expressive, I think, through voice. I like Wirt, too, even though, everything... The thing about this was they definitely showed every character in a positive light and a negative light. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. None of the characters are perfect. All of them have problems. And that's very uncommon for a cartoon show.
Yeah. I think I could decide on a favorite character, honestly. The Woodsman.
The Woodsman?
Yeah, it's just... in the end, he really is the hero of the story because he's the one who defeats the beast.
That's true. That's true.
And it took his bravery and just he had to accept a loss. Mm. And in the end, he was better for it.
Yeah, well, okay, let's talk about the epilogue, because I know we're not going to... You wanted to, like, be hush-hush about it, but in the epilogue and in the intro... So what's really cool is that a book ends with showing us everyone that we see throughout the story. We see them at the beginning before the kids touch their lives, and we see them again after the kids touch their lives. At the beginning, we see the Enoch. What was his name?
Enoch is just a...
It's just a cat?
Yeah, just a black cat and a...
Just a black cat and a giant pumpkin head. He's just kind of riding, I guess, some turkey horses. We see Beatrice, which we don't know at the time, as he is a human, right before she does something to cause herself that. We see the Woodsman with his daughter. And we see all the characters before the problems that happen with there. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we see them with their people. And we find out the Woodsman, keep in mind the darkness, the beast, never once said anything truthful.
Yeah. All wise.
Yeah, and so when he said you'll never see your daughter again after this is blown out, what does he see?
He finds his daughter safe at home.
Yeah.
Like, he was the one lost.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point. That's really poetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the whole thing was the stories about lost people. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I think I was more captivated with this than American Horror Story. Like, you guys know from the Gimpy animation I did, I've been watching American Horror Story. And I think this did this in a fraction of the time, because American Horror Story I think is like an hour long per episode.
Yeah.
And then like in an hour, I feel like this did so much more.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, American Horror Story, it's...
Have you watched it?
I've watched like half the first season.
Okay.
It didn't really catch me.
Season 2 is a little bit more interesting. It's got sci-fi stuff in it. So with again, we're supposed to be talking about Over the Wall, but it's really easy to jump into other subjects. With American Horror Story, the first one's very murder house, very mystery, murder, ghost. Excuse me, guys. But then with the second one, it's the asylum, and there's demons. there's aliens, there's just a spectrum of things. Like, if the first one's much more focused, while the other one's just like, it's whatever sticks. They just throw a bunch of stuff on the wall. And then the third one is more focused on, like, a certain element, but I haven't got through the third one yet.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that has something to do with, they had to set out with just an hour, a little over an hour's worth of time for Over the Garden Wall. And they had to have a very direct approach to what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, how do we tell the story in 10-minute segments?
And you can definitely tell a lot of love and care went into this. They definitely combed through, made sure every character's acting. Like, you could definitely tell they had a beginning, middle, and end before they actually started storyboarding. Like, they knew exactly what the character had to be thinking, what they're thinking, and how to manipulate the audience into thinking one way. Beatrice is a really good character in that because, like, she comes off the first time watching kind of a bitch, you know. She's just, you know, come on guys, let's go. Come on, can you know, Gregory, can we go without you talking, you know, stuff like that. And then towards the end, you can definitely tell that her heart grew, and you know, she likes the boys, and
she wouldn't, if she had met anybody different, her story could have been a lot more tragic.
Like if I just imagine, because like there's just different points where like she's trying to convince Gregory to leave, not go, you know, like, you know, hey, let's run off without your brother, you know, she only needs one boy, she doesn't need both, and just different little things like that. And I don't know, it's just really clever. I know that just sounds like it's a lot of like, oh man, I really like the show, you know, just circle jerking over here.
Well, no, I mean, when a good show is good, you know, even when you have, like, we said our weakest episodes were usually the ones that were heavily musical and had Gregory in them. Mm-hmm. That is not anything against the series as a whole.
No. Like, as a whole, like, those are only two episodes that, like, if I was going to ask someone to watch it, those are only two that I'd be like, you know, like my roommate, for example. I think he would like every episode except for those two. And, like, I think he would just be, like, kind of turned off by it, you know?
Yeah, but the thing is they're only 11 minutes.
Right.
Like, any other series, if it has bad episodes, you gotta force yourself to sit through those, especially if they have plot points in them.
Yeah.
But this one, it's like, oh, this is only 11 minutes. Even if I don't like it, I can just be like, you know, look at Facebook on my phone while I'm watching it.
Mm-hmm. So what's really interesting is that I don't think that it needs a sequel.
No.
I don't want them to touch it. I think they did a really good job with this. The rating seems to be like 1 million, a little bit higher. It raised a little bit. We haven't seen what the final episode's ratings were, but for the most part, it kept raising. It dipped a little bit in the fourth episode, and then kind of like, so we don't know if it you know, jumped back up because it was the finale. But I'm really hoping this is something that like Cartoon Network just like, maybe if they keep the same team and come out with a different story. But like I think this was a really good, well told story. And I think of them trying to make a sequel, they'll just probably like there's more chances of them like weakening it by adding more to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's by every episode opening in the middle of something, you do have some spaces for what happened between episodes, but that's not what you should do. No. Except to maybe find out how they got on that frog boat. I'm kind of curious there.
I do know that there is a one-shot comic book adaptation of the show that was announced October 2014 by Kaboom. Kaboom is a TV show on Nickelodeon from the 90s.
Showing our ages here.
Yeah. By an imprint of Boom Studios. It's set for release November 5th, so I guess it's already out. I don't know if it's just a one shot, so I don't know if it tells the story between those parts, which would be great if it did. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. I don't normally buy comics, but I think I might be buying one. But yeah, so I think this is good. This, Patrick McHale, good job, sir. You get the seal of approval from some fat guy on the internet. And his friend. Yeah. Tristan! So for the most part, I feel like we're going to start like repeating ourselves.
Yeah, it's like, I can't figure out where to end this.
Yeah, so...
where do I get off this crazy train?
So what we're going to do is... by the way, guys, if you want to follow Tristan, I know he didn't speak much because I talk too much, but... I think next week you'll have a lot more to talk about.
Probably.
It's about toys. This guy loves toys.
Not that kind.
You made it peak. You made it bad. Look at the recording. You made that. That's you. That's your mistake.
Sorry.
But yeah, next week we're going to talk about Ben 10, Omniverse, the show that just recently got canceled. But we'll talk more about that next week if you're free. Yeah.
Does it look like I have a life?
No, that's why I have you. Never have to worry about scheduling conflicts. But if you want to, feel free to tell your Twitter or any way for them to follow you.
Let's see. My Twitter is Xenothrope, XENOTHROPE at twitter.com.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, no.
I'll post in the description.
Yeah, jeez, I can't even remember my Tumblr, but I'm trying to do toy reviews on that. But no, I'll see you guys next week then.
You have such a strong brand. I don't remember what I just kind of log on the computer and it does it for me.
Not all of us are YouTube personalities.
I'm barely a YouTube personality. This is the first step to becoming a YouTube personality. I have a podcast. One episode. And if you guys want to follow me, it's StevRayBro on everything, because that's how you do a brand. But yeah, for you guys, let me know, did you think this was okay? I know that with it being just kind of a recap of all the episodes, just talking about it, I guess really hearing our perspective, how we saw this story is kind of cool. I know that next week we'll definitely be talking more about it'll be more of a retrospect than a recap. But I really, really enjoyed you guys know this, you listen to the podcast, and I want to do something to celebrate it. There will be a Watch Me Draw, but, I haven't done the Doctor Who Gravity Falls crossover one yet. So I guess after Doctor Who Gravity Falls, someone already, tweeted me to draw it, so over the wall there will be some kind of drawing.
Awesome.
And if you guys like the podcast, leave comments down below, and definitely have a conversation with us. I don't know if you have a YouTube account or not, but we'll both be talking, he has a YouTube account now. I'll draw my icon or something, so he's part of the channel, part of the StevRayBro love, and we'll converse with you. Throw what you thought about the show or something you thought you disagree with us. Feel free to leave comments, and we'll argue with you, or we'll
flame war.
We'll do a digital high five. But yeah, leave a comment down below if you like this, if you want to see more of it, and you just maybe you enjoy our voices. I don't know. Maybe you just, looking for an outlet to talk about cartoons you enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so leave comments down below for what you think. And next week, if everyone's not, stop doing this, don't ever do it again, we'll be talking about some Ben 10.
Yeah. No, even if they do tell us to stop doing it, we're going to do it to spite them. Rebellion!
I'm going to end this now.